She's so fine. Hell of a hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? This story is coming out of San Diego, California. Came out just a couple of days ago, and I read it in the Associated Press. Now, the title itself is what reeled me in. Family suing San Diego cemetery after remains of Juneteenth trailblazer missing from burial plot. Relatives of a late black businessman who helped popularize Juneteenth in San Diego are suing a cemetery after his remains were reported missing from the family's burial plot. Greenwood Memorial Park and Mortuary informed the family that Sidney Cooper's body and his casket were not in the plot where he was supposed to have been buried more than 2 decades ago. Now, cemetery staff discovered that it was empty as they prepared to bury Mr. Sidney Cooper's wife, Thelma, who died just this past March. Staff said they did not know the whereabouts of Mr. Sidney Cooper's remains. Now, that came from his daughter, Lana Cooper Jones, and she told the San Diego Union Tribune that. She also said, "I was absolutely distraught. It was like losing my father again, as well as my mom." Now, Greenwood Memorial Park and Mortuary said it was working to rectify the problem. While the placement of this family's loved one occurred over 20 years ago under previous ownership and management, we recently discovered an issue with placement and are diligently working to confirm the placement of the loved one. Our hope is to reunite the loved ones as intended as soon as possible. Now, the lawsuit, which was filed this past Friday, seeks to force the cemetery to find the Patriarch's remains and compensate the children for damages. The court filing was aimed to coincide with Saturday's Cooper Family Foundation Juneteenth Freedom Festival, which was held at San Diego's Memorial Park. Now, Mr. Sidney Cooper, who was 71 when he died in 2001, promoted Juneteenth for decades in his unofficial and affectionate role as mayor of Imperial Avenue, near where he ran a business including a barber shop and a produce store. Now, the family's Juneteenth celebrations grew from small events in the parking lot of his store to larger gatherings at a city park. After he passed away, the family created the foundation to carry on his legacy and celebrate the Juneteenth festival. The June 19 holiday marks the day in 1865 when word that of the Emancipation Proclamation finally reached the final slave holdout of Galveston, Texas, more than 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln signed the order freeing enslaved black people. Cooper Jones, his daughter, told the Union Tribune that when her father died, they held a graveside service, but they did not witness his casket being lowered into the ground. Now, cemetery officials have said they might have an idea where his casket was buried, according to the family's attorneys, Eric Dubin and Annie Della Donna. An underground probe detected the presence of a casket in a different plot that's supposed to be empty, the attorney said. The family wants that body exhumed and the DNA tested. Now, can you just imagine how often this probably happens and no one finds out about it? Now, you're talking about someone who died over 20 years ago. Mr. Sidney Cooper passed away in 2001. And then his wife dies this year, some 20 years later, and they try to place him appropriately, him and his wife, together in the cemetery, only to find out that he's not there. Now, this family's been visiting this gravesite since 2001, and I can't imagine having visited that gravesite and thinking all these years that your father's there when he's not. That would be traumatizing to me personally. So I really hope that they get to the bottom of this, but just to blow it off on the other funeral homes' previous owners, that's just not good enough. It just seems like this kind of stuff happens more than it should. And like, I know my grandparents, they lost a child's grave in a cemetery in eastern Kentucky. Yes, it's on the side of a mountain, But still, like, there should be a very clear defined map showing all of the graves. It should be updated very regularly so that people can see where their loved ones are buried, be able to visit their actual burial site, and not have these problems pop up. So previous ownership and management, that's just an excuse. Regardless, there should always be something in place to identify where people are placed once they pass away. So I hope this family does eventually find Mr. Sidney Cooper, since he's very important to the community and especially to the Juneteenth holiday in the San Diego area. And I hope that they are successful in maybe pushing this cemetery to keep better records, because that's just an excuse. So I just thought this story was interesting, and I wanted to bring it to the channel. And I'm going to end the story on that note. Thanks for watching, guys.